My name is Savannah Price, and I never imagined my own family would exploit my talents while keeping me hidden in the shadows. I am 31 years old. I live in Charleston, South Carolina. I am the research and development chef who created every signature sauce that made Coastal Flame Barbecue the most successful restaurant chain in the Southeast. But if you visited any of our 15 locations, you would never see my name. Not on the menu, not on the walls covered with press clippings, not even on the bottled sauces we sell nationwide. Instead, you would see my younger sister Avery smiling from every possible surface. Avery with her perfect camera-ready smile. Avery with her charismatic personality. Avery who has never developed a recipe in her life. I always preferred working in my test kitchen anyway. The lab is my sanctuary. The quiet place where I can focus on balancing flavors and creating the perfect consistency. I never wanted the limelight. At least that is what I told myself for years. I convinced myself I was content being the invisible genius behind our family business while Avery handled the public side. We were supposed to be partners, equal owners building something meaningful together. But partnerships require trust and transparency. Two ingredients that had been missing from our relationship for longer than I wanted to admit. I discovered the betrayal on a Tuesday morning. It was early March and the air still had that winter chill that makes you appreciate the warmth of a kitchen. I was in my development lab working on a new seasonal sauce, a peach bourbon glaze that I had been perfecting for weeks. Our accountant Kenneth had been trying to reach me for days, but I had been too absorbed in my work to return his calls. When he finally showed up at my lab door with a stack of financial reports, I could tell something was seriously wrong. His normally composed face looked strained. His voice was tight when he asked if we could speak privately. We moved to my small office adjacent to the test kitchen. The space was functional but sparse. Just a desk, a computer, and shelves lined with carefully labeled sauce samples. Kenneth sat across from me and slid the financial documents across the desk. For the past 18 months, Avery had been systematically draining the corporate accounts. Lavish personal expenses coded as business costs. A new vacation home in Hilton Head listed as a potential restaurant location. $120,000 sports car categorized as a promotional vehicle. Private jet travel to food festivals where she collected appearance fees that never made it back to our company accounts. The numbers were staggering. Nearly $2 million diverted from our business to fund her celebrity chef lifestyle. I felt like someone had knocked the air from my lungs. My hands trembled as I flipped through page after page of unauthorized expenditures. I had trusted Avery completely with the business side while I focused on product development. We had started Coastal Flame together 7 years ago using recipes passed down from our grandmother. Her secret barbecue sauce formula that I had expanded into an entire line of distinctive regional flavors. Each one meticulously crafted in this very lab. Each one helping to build a business that now generated over $30 million in annual revenue. A business that was now being hollowed out from the inside by my own sister. Kenneth looked at me with genuine concern. He explained that he had only discovered the pattern when preparing our tax filings. He had questioned Avery about several large transactions and had been brushed off with vague explanations about marketing initiatives and brand development. When he persisted, she threatened to replace him. That was when he decided to bring everything directly to me. I thanked him for his loyalty and asked for time to process what he had shown me. After he left, I sat motionless at my desk, staring at the documents that proved my sister's betrayal. I remembered how we started this journey together after our grandmother passed away. I was 24 and Avery was just 22. We had both been working corporate jobs we hated. Me as a research chef for a processed food company. Avery in an entry-level marketing position. When we inherited Grandma Eleanor's modest savings, we decided to take a chance on opening a small barbecue restaurant featuring her famous sauce. I would develop the menu and Avery would handle the business side. We complemented each other perfectly. My introversion balanced by her extroversion. My culinary skills matched with her business acumen, or so I thought. The memory of those early days now felt tainted. I wondered how long Avery had seen me as merely a tool to build her personal brand. When had the shift occurred from us being partners to her, treating the business as her personal ATM. I pulled up our company website on my computer. There she was, front and center. Avery Price, chef and founder of Coastal Flame. No mention of me anywhere. Not even in the Our Story section that detailed the journey from a single restaurant to a regional phenomenon. According to our official history, Avery had single-handedly transformed our grandmother's recipe into an empire. I had been completely erased. I closed my laptop and took a deep breath. The initial shock was transforming into something else, a slow-burning anger that felt strangely clarifying. For years I had accepted my behind-the-scenes role, partly because I genuinely preferred working in the background and partly because I loved my sister. I had convinced myself that our arrangement benefited us both. But staring at the evidence of her betrayal, I could no longer maintain that illusion. Avery had taken advantage of my trust. She had exploited my talent while systematically cutting me out of the very business I had helped create. And it was time for that to change. Instead of confronting her immediately, I decided to be strategic. Knowledge is power, and I needed to understand exactly how deep this deception went. I spent the next 3 days combing through every financial record I could access. What I discovered was even worse than I initially thought. Beyond the personal expenses, Avery had been systematically restructuring the business, moving assets into separate LLCs that listed her as the sole owner. She had leveraged our original restaurants to fund expansion, but the new locations were technically owned by her holding companies. She was using Coastal Flame's success and my recipes to build her own separate empire. On Friday morning, I received an email from Avery that made my blood boil. She was informing all department heads that due to rising costs, we would need to implement budget cuts. My R&D department would see a 30% reduction effective immediately. I would need to let go of 2 of my first staff members. This while she had just spent $90,000 on a brand partnership with a luxury watch company. I had reached my breaking point. I called and asked to meet her for lunch. We needed to talk about the budget cuts, I said. She suggested we meet at Leon's, an upscale Italian restaurant downtown. Of course, she would choose the most expensive option in the city. I arrived at the restaurant 10 minutes early and requested a private table in the back. The space was elegant with soft lighting and white tablecloths. I ordered water and waited. Avery arrived 20 minutes late as usual. She swept in wearing designer clothes that probably cost more than my monthly salary. Her hair and makeup were perfect. She air-kissed my cheek before sliding into her seat and immediately ordered a $100 bottle of wine without consulting me. I declined when the server poured a glass for me. I needed absolute clarity for this conversation. I watched as Avery chatted about her latest television appearance and the celebrities she had met at a recent charity gala. She did not ask a single question about me or the lab or the new products we were developing. When our food arrived, I finally interrupted her monologue. I asked directly about the budget cuts to R&D. She waved her hand dismissively, explaining that it was simply a business necessity. We needed to allocate resources to higher priority areas, she said. Like her personal brand development, I thought, but did not say, not yet. Instead, I asked her about the new Hilton Head property. I watched her expression carefully as she realized I knew about the purchase. She recovered quickly, claiming it was an investment property that would eventually become our flagship location in that market. I nodded as if accepting her explanation, then asked about the sports car. She became defensive, saying she needed to project success as the face of the brand. Each question I asked made her more agitated. When I finally mentioned the separate LLCs, her expression hardened. She put down her fork and stared at me with cold calculation I had never seen before. You have always been content in your little lab, Savannah. She spoke my name like it was an accusation. You have no idea what it takes to build a brand in this industry. While you play with your little recipes, I am out there making us relevant, making us matter. I am the reason people care about Coastal Flame. I am the one who turned your sauce into a sensation. Her words stung but also confirmed everything I suspected. In her mind, the business was hers alone. My contributions were merely ingredients she had used to build her personal empire. I stayed calm though my heart was racing. I reminded her that we had started this company together. that my recipes were the foundation of our success, that we were supposed to be equal partners. She laughed, a dismissive sound that cut through the restaurant's quiet ambience. Equal partners? Is that what you think we are? You contribute one small part to this business, Savannah. One part that could be replaced by any halfway decent chef. I bring everything else. The personality, the connections, the vision. Without me, you would still be making sauce in your apartment and selling it at farmers markets. It took every ounce of self-control not to respond with the anger building inside me. Instead, I simply asked her why she felt entitled to divert company funds for personal use. She became defensive immediately. Everything I do benefits the brand. She insisted. My appearance is part of our marketing. My connections bring us opportunities. My lifestyle validates our premium pricing. She truly believed she deserved everything she had taken. In her mind, the company existed to serve her ambitions, not the other way around. As she continued justifying her actions, I realized something important. Avery was so convinced of her own indispensability that she had become careless, arrogant even. She had left a clear paper trail of her financial misdeeds because she never imagined anyone would question her, least of all her quiet sister who had always stayed in the background. Her underestimation of me would be her downfall, but I needed to be smarter than a direct confrontation. I needed a plan that would protect both me and the business we had built. I let her finish her self-serving explanation, then simply nodded. I softened my expression and told her I understood the pressure she was under, that I appreciated everything she did for our brand. I could see the tension leave her body as she assumed she had placated me. We finished lunch with superficial conversation. When we parted outside the restaurant, she seemed completely confident that she had maintained control of the situation. She had no idea that lunch had only confirmed my determination to reclaim what was rightfully mine. The following week, I began implementing my plan. The first step was creating a separate business entity that would allow me to operate independently, if necessary. I established Savannah Price Culinary Innovations LLC, a company specializing in sauce development and culinary consulting. I did this quietly using a different attorney than the one who handled Coastal Flame's legal matters. Next, I carefully documented every recipe I had ever created for the company. While Coastal Flame owned the current formulations I was under, no contractual obligation preventing me from developing new and improved versions. I also reached out to Kenneth, our accountant, to gather comprehensive financial records. He was sympathetic to my situation and provided everything I needed. The evidence of Avery's financial misconduct was overwhelming, enough to constitute fraud if I chose to pursue legal action. But a messy public battle would damage the brand we had built. I wanted justice, not destruction. I needed a solution that would correct the power imbalance without burning everything to the ground. The opportunity presented itself a month later. Avery informed the executive team that our profit margins were shrinking. We needed to find ways to cut costs while maintaining quality. She suggested we bring in an outside consultant to review our menu and processes, someone who could identify inefficiencies and suggest improvements. When she mentioned this, I saw my opening. I recommended we look for a specialist in barbecue cuisine, someone with deep knowledge of our particular market segment. Avery readily agreed, assuming I was falling in line with her authority. That evening, I created a professional profile for SB Culinary Innovations, a boutique consulting firm specializing in barbecue and sauce development. I built a website featuring impressive but anonymous case studies, carefully constructed to showcase expertise without revealing the consultant's identity. I used industry jargon and professional language that would appeal to someone like Avery. I even created several glowing testimonials from fictional restaurant owners. The entire operation was designed to appear established and prestigious while revealing nothing about the consultant behind it. The next day, I asked Natalie, my most trusted lab assistant, to help me with a special project. I swore her to secrecy, then explained what I needed. She would be my proxy, contacting Avery to pitch consulting services from SB Culinary Innovations. Natalie had always been loyal to me personally rather than to the company as a whole. She was also an excellent actress, having performed in community theater for years. She understood the role she needed to play perfectly. 2 days later, Natalie made the call. She explained that SB Culinary was seeking new clients in the Southeast region, that they specialized in optimizing menu offerings and sauce formulations for barbecue restaurants, that they had heard Coastal Flame was expanding and might benefit from their expertise. She mentioned their consultant had extensive experience with regional barbecue traditions, that they had helped other chains increase profit margins while maintaining authenticity. She was professional, persuasive, and just mysterious enough to pique interest. Avery was intrigued but cautious. She scheduled a video conference for the following week. This presented a challenge. I could not appear on the call myself, so I enlisted another ally. Marcus had been my classmate at culinary school and now worked as a food photographer. He agreed to pose as the firm's business manager for the video meeting while I prepared his talking points. The consultation would be conducted primarily through documentation and written analysis, he explained. Their chief consultant valued privacy and rarely met with clients in person. This exclusivity would appeal to Avery's sense of status. The video conference went exactly as planned. Marcus presented the consulting package with confidence, emphasizing the potential for improved margins and menu innovation. He quoted a substantial fee that would be paid in 3 installments. He explained that their consultant would need complete access to all recipes, financial data, and operations information. Everything would be covered by a strict confidentiality agreement, of course. When Avery asked about meeting the consultant, Marcus explained that face-to-face meetings only occurred after the initial analysis was complete. It was simply how their process worked. I watched the meeting from off-camera, studying Avery's reactions. Her ego was clearly engaged. The exclusivity, the prestige, the promise of insider knowledge that would give her an edge over competitors. Marcus skillfully played to her sense of self-importance, suggesting that only elite restaurant groups were accepted as clients. By the end of the call, she was practically begging to hire us. 3 days later, she signed the consulting agreement and transferred the first payment to SB Culinary Innovations, my company. She had just hired me to evaluate my own recipes without realizing it. Over the next 6 weeks, I conducted a thorough analysis of Coastal Flame's operations. I reviewed every aspect of the business, compiling a comprehensive report that documented not only potential improvements but also the systematic financial mismanagement. I detailed how Avery's excessive spending and corporate restructuring had undermined our profitability. I included projections showing how the company could flourish if properly managed. And I created a proposal for a new corporate structure that would restore the original partnership model, all submitted under my consultant identity. Avery was impressed with the quality of the analysis. She scheduled a call with Marcus to discuss implementing the recommendations. During this conversation, he suggested that the consultant would be willing to meet in person to review the final phase of the proposal. This meeting would coincide with the upcoming Southern Food and Wine Festival, where Coastal Flame would have a major presence. Avery readily agreed. The festival was her favorite annual event, a chance to network with celebrity chefs and industry influencers. She had no idea she had just scheduled her own reckoning. The Southern Food and Wine Festival was the most prestigious culinary event in the region. Chefs, restaurant owners, and food media from across the country would be in attendance. Coastal Flame had a prominent booth featuring our signature sauces and barbecue. Avery was scheduled to give a cooking demonstration on the main stage, showcasing our most popular dishes I had developed, recipes she would take credit for. It was the perfect setting for what I had planned. I spent the week before the festival finalizing my strategy. I compiled a digital presentation documenting my contributions to Coastal Flame. Every recipe, every sauce, every menu innovation that had built our brand. I gathered photographic evidence of my work in the test kitchen over the years, images that had never been shared publicly. I prepared financial summaries highlighting Avery's misappropriation of company funds. And most importantly, I drafted a new business proposal, one that would allow us both to contribute our unique strengths while ensuring proper recognition and compensation. The festival was held at the Charleston Convention Center, a sprawling venue filled with cooking demonstrations, tasting stations, and vendor booths. Coastal Flame's installation was one of the largest. a beautiful custom-built space featuring reclaimed wood, authentic smoke equipment, and digital displays showing Avery in various glamorous cooking scenarios. I arrived early, observing from a distance as the staff prepared for opening. I was dressed differently than usual. A tailored blazer over a simple black dress, hair styled professionally, light makeup enhancing my features. I looked confident, competent, successful, everything Avery believed I was not. I watched as Avery arrived surrounded by her usual entourage. She was wearing chef whites, though she rarely cooked anymore. She moved through the space giving instructions and adjusting displays to her liking. Everything had to center around her image, her vision. I sent a text to Marcus, who was positioned near the main demonstration stage. It was time to set our plan in motion. He approached Avery, introducing himself in person for the first time. He explained that SP Culinary's consultant was on site and ready for their scheduled meeting. Would she be available after her cooking demonstration? She agreed immediately, eager to finally meet the mysterious expert who had impressed her with such insightful analysis. Avery's demonstration was scheduled for 2 o'clock. She took the stage with practiced confidence, introducing herself as the chef and creator behind Coastal Flames award-winning sauces. The audience was substantial. Industry professionals, food journalists, and barbecue enthusiasts filled the seats. I positioned myself in the wings of the stage, listening as she described the inspiration behind our signature Carolina Gold sauce, how she had perfected the balance of mustard, honey, and spices, how she had built a barbecue empire from our grandmother's kitchen. Every word a carefully constructed fiction. As her demonstration concluded to enthusiastic applause, I took a deep breath and prepared to step forward. Marcus appeared at Avery's side as she was accepting compliments from audience members. He gestured toward me, standing now at the edge of the stage. I saw the moment of confusion on her face, the furrowed brow as she tried to understand why her reclusive sister was present at her professional event. Then Marcus spoke just loud enough for those nearby to hear. "Miss Price, may I introduce SP Culinary's chief consultant, Savannah Price. She has completed her analysis and is ready to discuss her findings." The color drained from Avery's face as understanding dawned. SP Culinary was me, the consultant she had hired, the expert whose analysis she had praised, the authority whose recommendations she had been eager to implement. All along she had been working with the very sisters she had systematically sidelined. I stepped forward and extended my hand professionally. The small crowd of industry insiders watched with interest as Avery struggled to maintain her composure. She had no choice but to acknowledge me without causing a scene. I suggested we discuss the consultant findings at our booth where we had more space. She nodded stiffly and followed me through the festival floor. Her expression was a mix of shock and growing anger. When we reached a Coastal Flame installation, I asked our staff to give us privacy for a business discussion. They withdrew, leaving us alone in the corner of the booth, furthest from passing attendees. Avery immediately launched into a harsh whisper, demanding to know what game I was playing, what I thought I was doing by embarrassing her in front of industry peers. I remained perfectly calm, which only seemed to infuriate her more. I explained that there was no game, only a business proposition. I opened my tablet and showed her the presentation I had prepared. The first slide displayed 2 simple words: equal partners. I told her I had spent weeks analyzing Coastal Flame's operations as she had requested. I had identified the primary barriers to growth and profitability, and I had developed a strategic plan to address these issues. I would be happy to discuss my findings privately, or we could review them right here with interested industry colleagues. The choice was hers. She glared at me with genuine hatred but lowered her voice. "Fine, show me what you think you know." I scrolled through the first section of my presentation. Detailed documentation of every unauthorized expenditure she had made over the past 2 years. The separate LLCs she had established to divert company assets. The systematic way she had restructured the business to minimize my ownership stake while using my recipes to build the brand. With each slide, her expression shifted from anger to wariness. She was beginning to understand the thoroughness of my documentation, the irrefutable evidence of her financial misconduct. When I reached a section detailing potential legal consequences, she interrupted. What do you want, Savannah? Just tell me what this is about. I closed the tablet and looked directly into her eyes. I want what we originally agreed to. Equal partnership, equal recognition, equal respect for our different contributions to this business. I want the company structure restored to its original form with appropriate safeguards to prevent future misappropriation. And I want public acknowledgement of my role in creating the products that built Coastal Flame. She laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. You think anyone cares about the person in the test kitchen? This business succeeds because of me. Because of my personality, my connections. The brand is me. Her voice had risen slightly, and I noticed a few people glancing our way. I remained calm, suggesting again that we could continue this conversation privately or share it with the industry professionals surrounding us. She took a deep breath, visibly forcing herself to regain control. This is blackmail, she hissed. I corrected her. This is a business negotiation between partners. For the next hour, we discussed terms. I had come prepared with a detailed restructuring proposal. One that would maintain the brand identity she had built while properly acknowledging my contributions. One that would implement financial controls to prevent further misuse of company funds. One that would restore the balance of power between us. She argued and threatened and attempted to intimidate me at every turn. But we both knew I held the stronger position. The evidence of her misconduct was too substantial to ignore. As our discussion continued, her resistance gradually diminished. The reality of her situation was becoming clear. If I chose to pursue legal action or simply take my recipes and expertise elsewhere, Coastal Flame would suffer irreparable damage. The business she had used to build her personal brand would collapse without my continued participation. By the time the festival was closing for the day, we had reached a tentative agreement. One that would require substantial changes to how our company operated. One that would fundamentally alter our relationship as business partners and as sisters. The following morning, we met for breakfast at a quiet cafe to finalize details. Avery arrived looking tired. The previous day's confrontation had clearly affected her. She had abandoned her usual polished appearance for something more subdued, more authentic. As we reviewed the terms of our agreement, I sensed a shift in her demeanor. The defensive hostility was giving way to something more reflective. When we finished discussing the business restructuring, she set down her coffee cup and looked at me with an expression I hadn't seen in years. Vulnerability. Why didn't you just come to me, Savannah? Why the elaborate scheme? I considered her question carefully before answering. Would you have listened? Would you have acknowledged what you were doing? Would you have been willing to change without irrefutable evidence and the threat of exposure? She had no response because we both knew the answers. No, no, and no. The sister I had grown up with, the one who had dreamed of building something meaningful together, had been consumed by ambition and ego long ago. Only this kind of shock to her system could have broken through. Our new agreement included several key components. First, a restructuring of Coastal Flame's corporate ownership, restoring my 50% stake in all aspects of the business. Second, the implementation of financial controls requiring dual authorization for any expenditure above a certain threshold. Third, the creation of a new public narrative acknowledging my role as the culinary creative force behind our products. And finally, my favorite provision, a community initiative that would redirect a portion of our profits to a cause close to my heart. This last element had been inspired by memories of our grandmother, who had taught us both to cook. She had operated a small neighborhood kitchen, providing meals and culinary training to single mothers struggling to support their families. In her honor, we would establish the Eleanor Price Community Kitchen, a program that would offer culinary education and employment opportunities to women in similar circumstances. Avery would oversee this initiative, applying her communication skills and public presence to a cause more meaningful than self-promotion. The Southern Food and Wine Festival continued for 2 more days. During this time, Avery and I began implementing our new partnership model. We adjusted our vendor materials to include my bio and credentials alongside hers. We co-created a cooking demonstration showcasing our complementary strengths. Her engaging presentation style paired with my technical expertise. The industry response was immediate and positive. Many attendees expressed surprise at discovering the chef behind Coastal Flame's famous sauces. Food journalists requested interviews. With both of us together, a more complete and authentic brand story was emerging. On the final day of the festival, we held a small press conference announcing the launch of the Eleanor Price Community Kitchen. Avery spoke eloquently about our grandmother's influence and our shared commitment to supporting single mothers. I provided details about the culinary training program we would establish. As we stood side by side, I realized we were presenting a united front for the first time in years. Perhaps the first time ever as adult business partners. The experience was surprisingly healing for both of us. The months following the festival brought significant changes to Coastal Flame and to my personal role within the company. My name and image began appearing alongside Avery's in our marketing materials. I occasionally joined her for selected media appearances, though I maintained my primary focus on product development. Our executive team was restructured to create clearer separation between creative and business operations, each of us leading in our areas of expertise with transparent communication between departments. The Eleanor Price Community Kitchen became a reality later that year. We converted one of our original restaurant locations into a training facility equipped with professional-grade equipment and classroom space. Avery proved surprisingly dedicated to this project. She developed relationships with local support organizations and recruited experienced chefs to serve as instructors. Her natural charisma, which had previously been directed towards self-promotion, found a more meaningful purpose in advocating for program participants. Our relationship as sisters remained complicated. Years of resentment and betrayal could not be erased overnight, but a new foundation of mutual respect gradually developed. Avery began to genuinely appreciate the culinary expertise I brought to our business. I acknowledged the value of her marketing skills and public presence. We were different in nearly every way, but our differences could be complementary rather than divisive when properly balanced. The company flourished under our reformed partnership, growing in ways neither of us had anticipated. 1 year after the festival confrontation, we celebrated the graduation of the first cohort from our community kitchen program. 15 women who had completed intensive culinary training and would move into paid apprenticeships at our restaurants. During the ceremony, Avery surprised me by publicly acknowledging how her focus on image and status had nearly destroyed what we had built together. How my intervention had not only saved our business but had redirected her ambitions towards something more meaningful. It was as close to an apology as her pride would allow, and it was enough. Today, Coastal Flame operates 27 locations across the Southeast. Our sauces are distributed nationally through specialty food retailers. I continue to develop new products in my expanded research kitchen while occasionally stepping into the public role when appropriate. Avery balances her time between brand representation and directing our community initiatives, which have now expanded to 3 major cities. We maintain separate areas of authority but make major decisions together as equal partners. The system of financial checks and balances we implemented ensures transparency and accountability on both sides. My name is Savannah Price. I am the culinary creator behind Coastal Flame BBQ. For years, my contributions were hidden in the shadows while my sister claimed credit for my work. When I discovered her betrayal, I could have responded with equal deception or public exposure. Instead, I chose a path that offered redemption and restoration, not just for our business but for our relationship. I reclaimed my rightful place not through destruction but through strategic empowerment. I turned smoke and mirrors into genuine smokehouse magic. Have you ever discovered that someone close to you was taking credit for your work or contributions? What would you do if your own family member built their success on your hidden talents?